Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic.
I'm Barry P. Cook. I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of The Orville. It was called Midnight Blue. And as it starts, Bortus is meeting with Kelly to get help with Topa, who's apparently behaving difficultly about talking with Bortus about her crush on a boy, which Kelly agrees to help with. She encourages Topa to tell the boy how she feels, and it turns out that the boy is Gordon, who hilariously doesn't understand at first what she's saying when she tries to explain that she likes him. And then he explains that he's very fond of her, but in a brotherly way. Meanwhile, the Orville is sent to conduct a joint survey of the Moclan female colony in conjunction with a Moclan team, and Topa goes along. After some unpleasantness with the Moclan team, Kelly, Bortus, and Topa meet with the Moclan writer lady, whose name is Havina, who is a big Dolly Parton fan, by the way, before dining with the women as they play Jolene on Moclan instruments and dance about. It was pretty funny, actually. When Topa takes the opportunity to observe some firefly-like Luminites in a quiet spot, she talks some more with Havina, who approaches her to ask her to secretly get involved with their underground network, which rescues Moclan females from Moclis, which Topa agrees to do. A moment later, when she goes off by herself to observe a rare blue Luminite, she's grabbed by the Moclan survey team. Bortus and Kelly figure it out after a little investigating, and they give chase in their shuttle. When the Orville can't reach the shuttle, they head to the colony and talk with Havina, who spills the beans about the network, which Topa now knows about and has likely been taken for questioning over. The Union asks Havina to testify to her illegal activities before the Union Council to demonstrate that the Moclans would have had a motive to kidnap Topa so that they can launch an investigation with the full force of the Union law behind it. She declines, though, because she feels it would endanger the colony. Shortly thereafter, she's taken to one of the ship's simulators upon the captain's orders to meet a simulation of Dolly Parton, who was being played by Dolly Parton, which was pretty cool. Because I guess the captain figured that talking with her idol might help her agree to work to save Topa. And it was really good to see Dolly Parton. And it was funny because as soon as she realizes Dolly Parton's there, she gets down on her knees, and Dolly Parton has to say no, don't worship me. It's kind of funny. Topa, meanwhile, is interrogated by a gnarly-looking Moclan, but she refuses to tell him anything. Kelly and Bortus track the Moclan shuttle to Topa's location. Upon Havina's testimony, the Council does in fact launch an investigation which upsets the Moclans. On the planet where Topa was being taken, Kelly is wounded, and she tells Bortus she blames herself for Topa's situation. But when Bortus tells her that she isn't to blame, and that he's grateful that she's part of Topa's life and that she's part of their family, she and Bortus almost kiss, but they're interrupted when the device that Bortus was using to heal Kelly's wound beeps. They continue on their way to the facility where Topa is being held and brutally interrogated. Upon reaching the facility, they infiltrate it and successfully rescue Topa, apparently after she gave up the name of the underground network contact and the secret frequencies that she was given by Havina. We know this because the torturer gleefully states that he got what he needed from her to his commander just before Bortus and Kelly enter and stun the commander, and Bortus fights with the torturer guy and takes out his one good eye with his own torture device, while Kelly yelled at him to stop, but he was quite pissed off, as I imagine I would be as well. At a tense meeting with the Moclan delegation back at headquarters, Gordon goes off on the Moclans, much to Ed and the Admiral's dismay. They actually have to order him to stand down because he was, I guess, out of line according to the rules, but he gave the Moclans what for, and it was pretty cool, actually. When the same delegation then goes on a tirade before the council, the delegate leader is interrupted by Kelly, Bortus, and Topa, who enter and relate what happened at the black site that they found, and the council unanimously rules against the Moclans, who are then booted out of the Union. So Moclis is out of the Union, which is crazy. Back aboard Orville, Clyden shows up after having been informed of what occurred with Topa, and he and Topa reconcile upon Clyden's tearful apology for his awful comments and behavior to her prior to his leaving. And it was a really great scene. He really breaks down and, he says, I'm sorry. What happened to you is because of people like, me and the way I was behaving, and I can't bear it, and he apologizes. And it was really a great scene. So I was happy to see it. Clyden and Bortus renounce their Moclan citizenship and invite Kelly to have dinner with them when she arrives at their quarters to tell them that they will soon be leaving Earth orbit, and that's where the episode ended. So the Union is now in a very precarious position. They're facing a threat from both the Krill and the Kaylon without Moclus. And I think that's going to be crazy. We're going to have to see how that plays out in the coming episodes. What I want to know specifically about this episode is what happened to the network, the underground network. Because Topa gave up the name, and I don't think the guy that got the name out of Topa is dead. He seemed to still be alive when they left, if I recall. So I don't know. Do they have the name now and the frequencies? And does it matter? Because what's-her-name confessed to the network existing, so aren't the Moclans gonna, go after the colony and all that? Because they broke the agreement? So, and then if that, of course, will take out the network. So what's going on with that? They don't really say, so hopefully we'll find out in a future episode. Are they going to deal any more with the whole thing between Bortus and Kelly, where it seems like they had a little something going on there, which would be complicated on a couple of fronts because she's his senior officer, for one thing. Moclans don't really have experience, or at least Bortus doesn't, as far as I know, with an intimate relationship with a female. Also, now Clyden seems to be back in the picture, so, this is going to be weird, people. It's going to be weird. Also, what about the whole thing with how Topa has a thing for Gordon? I really thought that that this was going to be what the episode was about. So it was kind of like a red herring unless they deal with it in future. And I don't imagine that they won't, because they have a good habit of, they're in the habit of following up on their breadcrumbs. So hopefully they'll deal with that. Because, I don't know, I don't think they should just leave that hanging. I think it could be interesting to see Gordon have to sort of deal with that whole thing. Speaking of Gordon, is he going to be reprimanded for causing a ruckus at the meeting? We'll have to see. This is kind of a short review, especially considering that this episode was an hour and a half long, and that, I only covered the main bullet points in my breakdown. There's a lot in the episode. The infiltration scene is action-packed. There's a chase scene when the shuttle is trying to escape the black site that I didn't go over because it's, how do you break down an action scene? But that was pretty cool because they're being chased by Moclan shuttles. There were, some conversations between Havina and Topa that were a couple of minutes long that, were pretty good scenes. And some interesting stuff was said about, how Topa was in a unique position to help. And, that really showed that Topa looked up to the woman. There was a tense scene between the woman and Ed when he's trying to get her to do the right thing and she's refusing, and he kind of tears into her. So there was a lot going on. The Dolly Parton scene was interesting. So you really have to see it to get the full depth of what took place. One other thing I want to say is that the special effects in this episode were unbelievable. The place where the colony is located is in a nebula, and all the scenes of the nebula when the Orville arrives and so forth were just mind-blowingly gorgeous. And I don't know, man, it looks like that Hulu money is doing this show, a big favor, because it looked amazing. And I was saying before in my previous review, or one of my previous reviews, about how the makeup is excellent on this show. At least the Moclan makeup. It's just so good. You cannot tell that those are actors in the makeup. And I don't know, like I said, if they enhance the shots with CGI, if what we're seeing is just the raw practical makeup or what, but it just looks perfect. You cannot tell that there are people, human people, I should say, underneath there. It's amazing to me. And so, yeah, I look forward to next week's episode. It's interesting because these episodes are not standard hour-long episodes, which again is something, a benefit of Hulu. I think it's a good thing overall. It gives them time to really flesh out the stories and give them added moments of poignancy. And it's just really great. It's just so crazy because, this show is so good and does what it does so well, just like Star Trek The Next Generation did, just like Deep Space Nine did, and unfortunately, like Discovery and Picard do not. And Strange New Worlds is kind of on the right track, but even they, don't do enough of these stories. Well, they only did 10 episodes, but in those 10 episodes, they really don't do enough stories like this. They spend a lot of time goofing around with Spock's romantic life, which, I don't know. Those are flights of fancy, if you ask me. They're trying to tell us about the human condition through Spock's relationship. Whatever, though, it's a romance movie plot. Really? Anyway, I like Strange New Worlds quite a bit. I just wish they'd do more episodes like this, because this was just a fantastic morality play episode. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. I'm looking forward to next week. I'll be back with a review of that episode then. Until then, I wish you peace and long life.